I recently ordered a bundle of 2 workbooks from Cultivate What Matters. Cultivate What Matters are the people who make power sheets, and I absolutely love my power sheets. I'm on my 5th year of using them. But recently I came across this little bundle. It was a workbook for routines and a workbook on habits. And I felt like I was at a point where I could really use a good refresher and to learn some new things as I work to get some new routines and habits put as part of my daily life. So I thought I would do this little video to go through so that you can see what's in these as well. I have done a look through briefly, and I actually am very happy with them. I've not written anything in them yet. But first of all, let's take a look and go through the routines workbook. You can see it's not an overly thick workbook. It's about 60 pages, I believe. I like the cover. It's not just a paper cover. It feels kind of like a hard, glossy, laminated thing. Some way on the side. You've got a place inside where you can write that this workbook, who it belongs to. You've got plenty of blank stuff here at the front for you to make any notes that you want to. And the table of contents, we've got an introduction, why routines matter, why they fail, creating your first routine, leaving it out, your routines over time, your routine library, troubleshooting guide, tracking your routines, and final encouragement, plus some recommended resources. So the first few pages are going through and talking about routines and how we can make those work for us. You can see I've taken a couple of stickies since I didn't want to go ahead and mess this up before I did this video. But this particular one talks about why routines matter. And you can then examine your own routines and identify the ones you've got that are helpful and the ones that you've got that are unhelpful. And I'm going to be honest, I've got some routines that I have fallen into that are not helpful, that I need to change and that I need to do some work on. But I like the fact that it's asking me to examine those so that I'm not just walking into this kind of blind and not sure what I'm doing. Okay, here it talks about the difference between a routine and a rhythm. And then it's got some information here for me about the power of routines and how they can help me, and how routines can help me achieve my goals. And then it's got a place for me to list out what are some of my big picture goals. And then I like this, routine sets you free, because I actually do believe that. I think it's easier to achieve goals. I think it's easier to have a routine and a rhythm to your day so that you can kind of anticipate the things that are coming up. And here we've got some information about why routines fail. And I definitely need to dig into this a little bit deeper because, like I said, I've had a few routines that I've noticed over the last few months have begun to fail me, probably more a case of I've failed them. But I need to spend a little time here reading this and some serious thought, maybe some serious talk with myself too. And then it's got a place here for some routines that have not worked in the past, because honestly, all routines don't work the same for everybody. What's effective for me may not be effective for you and vice versa. And then here, what are some opportunities and limitations of your current season? This, I think, is really important because depending on your age and stage and the season of life you're in, there are going to be different things that work or that do not work for you. I'm definitely noticing that in my own life. Okay, then we start in section. It talks about creating your first routine. And it's got some place in here for me to read and then to identify my greatest need. And then some more place to do some work. I like the fact that I can write in this. That means it's something that I can come back to time and time again. Okay, once we've gone through that, it's got a place here for breaking it down. And this looks like a place where we can then put in the small steps that it's going to take to make a routine actually become a routine. We've got a place for why this routine matters, what's the goal of the routine. Got a place for we to ideally envision what it will look like. And also, I like this, what things might get in the way of living this routine out. Because I'm going to be real honest with you. Sometimes I get in my own way, but there also are times when other events, life, happens to get in my way and cause me to derail a little bit. And then we've got the most important steps and how I can add delight to this routine. After all, if you're not enjoying a routine, it's probably not one you're going to keep up for very long. Okay, and then we've got some more information pages, it looks like. Living it out, starting small. Where have you seen little by little progress add up? And I am a big believer in little by little progress. I've always said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but I do believe it was built, brick at a time. And that I've always thought of those little bricks as those little steps And then when you take enough little steps or lay enough little bricks, you begin to see something quite interesting begin to happen. You do begin to make progress. Here it talks about stacking your routine, and that's something that I've read about in not only Atomic Habits, but in some other books, is that if you can attach a routine to another routine, you can make it more powerful, and you can get the benefit of the routine that you've already got in place. Okay, this is interesting. Thinking about some of the positive routines and some of the negative effects possibly of a routine. I think that going ahead and thinking about the negative ahead of time, or the possible obstacles or consequences, or all those things, helps us in some way to, I've always considered it taming the frenzy, by simply anticipating. Because by anticipating something, we can then come up with an alternative solution. We have a place here for environmental cues, and our environment is an important part of our routines. Your routines over time, why they're important. And I guess these are some work pages here to do some brainstorming or something else. And then here, the routines library. Clarity removes distractions. That's very true. I find when I'm fuzzy, that's when I am the most unable to decide what I need to do or what step to take next, because I'm just not quite sure where I'm going. Okay, these here are some sample routines that you could look at. A 40-something mom's daily evening routine, a 60-something weekly connection routine. So these would be some samples for you to look at as you start creating and working through your own routines. I like that there are several different samples, because I personally find that I learn from what other people are doing. And if I have some clue of what other people are doing, I can then take the things I believe will work for me, discard the ones that won't, and then I can do the tweaking to help make it a very individual, something that's personal just to me. Well, they've actually got a fair number of these. That was 12 different routines for you to look at. Okay, this section, troubleshooting guide, says you will not perform your routines perfectly right away, but progress, not perfection. Okay, so this section is about figuring out when things aren't working right, when you feel unmotivated, what you might try, when your schedule is unpredictable, what you might try. Boy, I have that a lot these days. Schedule a lot of times is unpredictable from week to week, or when the schedule gets crazy, what you can do. Okay, so this, in other words, this is a section that has some possible obstacles that you may be dealing with, and a tip or a strategy that you might try to overcome that. So I need to dig into that a little more deeply. Yeah, when life throws you a curveball, yeah. We've all been there, hadn't we? Okay, and this section is about tracking your routines. It keeps you honest. Yeah, that's true. I have found that when we're not tracking things, it's real easy to lie to ourselves, whether, consciously or subconsciously. It's real easy to look back later and think things went better or worked better than they did. But if we've been tracking things, we have something on, paper and a digital app, but we have black and white proof of what worked and what didn't and how it went. And then here we've got some yearly tracking things for routines. So that's a place to track 4 different routines all through the month, or through the year, actually. Okay, so you could select 4 routines, put your year in, what the routine is, and you've got the 12 months of the year and the days, and then you would simply just check off the days that you did those routines. I really like this, because I've got several routines that I need to track, and while there's a place in my power sheets to track some daily things, it only has spots for just, a few. And so this would give an additional place to track some of those routines to me that I'm trying to make just part of my daily life. So I really like this. Only thing I would like about this is if maybe there was another page of this. However, I'm sure that since this is for personal use, I could probably make a, copy this on my scanner and make an additional copy, and might even just set it off in here if I wanted to track more routines. But I do need to check the copyright and make sure that's legal for me to do. Because if it's not legal, we're not going to do it. Okay, and here's a place to check some weekly routines, because we all have some things that we just do weekly that we don't do every day. For example, one thing I do weekly, but not daily, is try to meal plan. Although I have to admit, some weeks I'm better at it than others. But this would give me a way, and this does have a way for me to check 8 of those routines. So, very likely between the daily routines and the weekly things, that probably is enough habit trackers right there. So I really do like that. And then we've got the section here that's final encouragement. And it's just got some more place to evaluate what we're doing. Okay, and we've got a place for several of those routines for us to evaluate it and see how it's working. And the purpose of evaluating then is we can tweak and change what's not working for us and make those changes so that we can get back on course. Okay, and then there's some recommended resources back here. If you're interested in habits, you've probably read some of these. I see several of these that I have already read in the past. So that is the workbook on creating your routines. The next one is similar size, you'll see. It's the habits workbook. Okay, we've got 3 sections of this: our foundation, how to cultivate good habits, and then resources. Then let's just walk through this again. It's going to talk to us about habits and being intentional, an introduction to habits, so to speak. And we've got a place where we can put down some of our habits and identify those that are positive and negative. And just like routines, I've got some habits that are some negative habits that I really need to work towards overcoming. However, I will say, when I do this, I'm going to pick the ones that are the most important to work on first, because I don't believe that we're going to pick, 15 different habits and change all of them at the same time. That's probably setting ourselves up for failure. Okay, here we talk about the power of habits. We've got a place to list some of our habits that are the most important to us, and habits help us achieve our goals. And then it talks about our big picture goal and the habit that can help us to achieve it. We've got some workbook pages here. Little by little adds up. The same is true as with routines. And how to choose the right habits for your season. And again, I like this. It's very, very similar as the other one, but the season of life that you're in makes a really big difference on a lot of those things that you choose to pursue and that you choose to make part of your life, or that you choose to eliminate from your life. Because let's be honest with ourselves. There are routines and habits that may no longer fit where you are in your life, and while they may be kind of just something you do on autopilot, they may no longer be relevant, and it may be worthwhile to eliminate those from your repertoire. Okay, here's how to cultivate good habits, how to change our beliefs and our mindset, and frankly, I think that's probably half the battle right there. I know the habits and routines that I struggle with the most are the ones that in my mind I feel like I'll never achieve, or that I feel like are going to be so difficult and so complicated that I've kind of already defeated myself before I really get started. So this habit piece is really important. Again, here it talks about changing your environment and how that's important. I really do think your habit can help or hinder. Hopefully it's a help and it's not something that's making things harder for us. I've got some more workbook pages here. How to cultivate good habits, help change your community. Succeed yourself with like-minded people. I'm sure it's like a lot of other things that we notice is that we tend to, whether we want to admit it or not, we tend to be like the people around us. We tend to speak or behave the same way, perhaps, or we tend to do the same things. We'd all like to think that we are totally immune to peer pressure and, the things that are going on around us. But the truth is that probably very few of us really are as independent as we think we are. However, if we think that's the case, and if that is the case, we can work on changing those things so that we're surrounding ourselves with things that encourage us to do better and to be better. Okay, some more reading and workbook pages. Now, this is the section that looks like starting to change our routines, and we're going to look at some established habits plus some new habits that we want to put in, how to change your schedule, because your habits are part of your schedule. In fact, recently I sat down and made a list of the things that I needed to make sure I did every day, because there were some things that I was really ignoring that I needed not to be ignoring. And then once I looked at those with my schedule, I found out I'm probably trying to get too many things done in a day. So your schedule's a really important piece of this. Okay, it talks about time blocking, which I'm a real fan of. And then it's got a place, it looks like here, to put out your schedule, especially if you have things that are predetermined and that are set. For example, if you still work a 9-to-5 job, or if you have commitments, perhaps in your community, volunteering, or if you take care of other people and you have that at certain times. Any recurring things that happen during the week, this is the place to put those. And of course, also make sure that you're accounting for your personal time and time for downtime. Okay, this section is troubleshooting, what to do when things get tough. Definitely going to need to spend a little time here. Okay, and this is just like in the other one. It gives some very common things that can be problems, when you're in a season of transition or when you miss a day, those things that happen that come up that tend to derail your habits and what could be some possible alternatives to get you back on track. I really, really do like this section of this. This page looks kind of interesting. Page of kind of a summary of some things to do when things get tough. I like the little icons. Okay, tracking your habits. Okay, looks like just like in the other one, it looks like we have four places to track your daily habits. So you would do these like you did the other, and then 8 places for your weekly habits. So this gives you, I really do like the fact that this gives you one place that you can go back to. Where in the power sheets, you would need to go back and look at each particular month. I really like that this has this all in one place. Okay, this is for 1,000 hours. And I suspect what this is, and I haven't read all the stuff in here yet, but I suspect what this is. Well, I've heard it said that you have to practice anything for about 1,000 hours in order to get really good at it. If you have a particular habit that you're trying to make part of your daily routine or weekly routine, that you come in here and that you mark off every time you do that. That way you can see over time, as you're doing those things, it's going to become more of something that's just automatic to you. In other words, taking something that you want to be a habit, doing it repeatedly 1,000 times, and eventually it will become a habit. It will become automatic. These two pages are for personal milestones. So anytime you set goals or try to start something new, as we would be with habits or routines, we would set a milestone. That way we could know when we've achieved it. This is important to help us be able to recognize our progress and to see how far we've come, because sometimes some habits or routines or some goals are really, really big, and you may not realize that you're making progress, and when you don't, it's easy to get discouraged and to get down and to want to give up. But by setting some personal milestones, you can then see what your progress is. It says customize these charts to track your own milestones. They're useful for tracking things like number of books read, dollars saved, letters sent. In other words, you could set this up for whatever you wanted, and then you've got 100 squares. So that's interesting. Okay, and then this section is the kind of how to get started with some information to read, some brainstorming of habits and why it matters. Looks like we've got, that's 8. We've got 10 pages of that, so we'd be able to take 10 different habits and brainstorm and put in here why it's important, and then things that we want to do to help make that the heart of our daily routine. And then the recommended resources in the back. I do see some commonality between the other workbook I just showed you. Anyway, okay, that is taking a glance through those. I am anxious to go through these myself and to sit down on my comfy couch to really spend some time with these and to actually do the work in the workbooks. But I just wanted to give you a chance to see these so that you could see for yourself and possibly decide if this is something that you wanted to add to your personal collection as you work towards building your habits and routines so that you can achieve those goals and dreams.